Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use that promo code DNVR25 because when you do, you'll save 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And joining us, as has become our weekly custom, is the voice of the Colorado Rockies on AT&T Sports. And, of course, the host of the Drew Goodman podcast. It's Drew Goodman.
That sounded almost Alan Roach-ish. Very nice.
I was doing my best. I started leaning into it at some point. I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Slow news week, pretty much.
Yeah. Slow news week, though. You've been back, but I want to officially welcome you back when I partake. Patrick was, gone last week, and of course, Drew was killing him, calling him soft for missing work. But good to see you. I see it wreaked havoc with your hair, evidently, the after vaccine effect.
A little bit, yeah. It gives you a little curl, a little extra pep in your step, the hair wise. Gave me more volume. That's nice.
Hey, the same thing happened to me.
I went carrot top originally, and I mean that with nothing but affection. By the way, I know there's.
If I had his money, are you kidding me? He crushes it in Vegas.
Right. Or you could be the bassist in any grunge band, I think.
Very much. I could also maybe pose as Blake Anderson from Workaholics for anyone that's into that Comedy Central show with Adam Devine.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You lost me there. The '90s grunge rocker up in Seattle, maybe a backup guy in late Kurt Cobain's gig or something.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Maybe Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah. Okay.
Early '70s, maybe late '60s.
That's more my time.
There you go. Procol Harum. I don't know. Is that too obscure of a rock band?
Off on that one too.
Yeah. I didn't. You lost us all there.
Neither one of you guys play an instrument?
Not me.
Yeah. I actually did music for a little while. I play a little acoustic. I don't play piano as much as I used to because I don't have one. But yeah,
you play acoustic guitar.
Play the acoustic guitar, sing a tune or two. Yeah.
So you got some vocals, good man. You got talent actually.
Debatable. You can.
No, that wasn't a shot at
SoundCloud
page. That was if anything, that was a shot at both of us.
Sure. No, it's fine.
All right, because I can't sing, I can't dance, and I can't play an instrument. So I'm always in awe of people that can.
That's a Phil Collins song, isn't it? I can't sing.
Yeah, but I can't sing it.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, doesn't do me any good.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I enjoy it. But yes, one thing we know you can do is talk about the Colorado Rockies because you do it just about every single day.
As do you guys.
In addition to the extra time when you're also doing your podcast. So just even more talking about the Rockies. And as we were mentioning there up top, of course, big news week for the Colorado Rockies. Can you just kind of take us with how you've learned about the news that Jeff Bridich and the Colorado Rockies were mutually parting ways, that Greg Feasel was going to be team president, and just kind of what your immediate kind of guttural response was?
I probably learned it, almost the same time you guys did. I got, maybe a quote unquote internal text, but, within 15 minutes or so of when the news broke. And I'm trying to give you the right adjective. I wouldn't say I was shocked. You could say on one hand the timing, late April, and why didn't it happen earlier if that was going to happen? And I care about people, and this is a tough business, and it's very easy to be critical. But at the end of the day, it's somebody that was trying their best and may have, their best may not have been ultimately good enough in an industry where everyone is hired to be fired, whether you're a manager, a general manager, a player, right? we all love that player until he turns 37 and all of a sudden ain't the same player, and then he kind of ostensibly gets fired. So, I've known Jeff a long time, and to see somebody that clearly, had to be, it had to be not pleasant, certainly the last whatever period of time, year. And now it's more difficult than anything to be a quote unquote public figure or to occupy a position that is scrutinized so closely publicly. And in 30 years ago, people may have felt something, but they really didn't have access. Now, with, as we all know, in this information age and with social media, it can get ugly. And so from a humane standpoint, I hope he's able to relax and move forward in whatever capacity that is, whether it's in baseball, out of baseball, and enjoy his family, and listen, he's a smart guy. He's going to land on his feet, whether it's in the game of baseball or not. But that's the human side is where I went initially.
Yeah, that's a great take, because I think fans immediately just think about their team, and they, like you say, a player gets older. Well, what have you done for me lately? Are you in a slump? What's your trade value? All those things that first comes to mind when you're a fan. But then, especially like the three of us, we actually get to know these people as human beings, and we say, well, they're doing the best they can, or they're doing what they can. And yeah, they made a poor choice, but that doesn't mean they should, be hunted down or harped upon on social media and certain things like that, and in the real world, because they are people. And I think oftentimes, fans, sometimes even us in journalism, we can forget that at moments as well.
Yeah. And, whenever you do a job, whatever that job is, if you are a good self-evaluator, you're probably going to find fault in certain things you did. You're probably going to look back and say, I would have handled this differently. I would have done this. It's easy to Monday morning quarterback. And, Clint Hurdle used to have a great line, because managers are, it's what we all do, right? You second guess, whether you verbalize it or just internalize it. We all second guess. Ooh, why would you pinch hit there? Why did you remove the pitcher there? That sort of thing. Well, managers, just like general managers, just like anybody who is paid to make decisions, whether you're running a gadget company or whatever, you have to first guess. And sometimes the first guesses make you brilliant for a week, and sometimes they make you the GOAT. But nobody, I think, wakes up in the morning, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a broadcaster, or whether you're a general manager, and says, you know what? I want to suck at my job today. I want to do a horse bleep job today, right? Nobody does that. And so the intentions are there. And I think also going forward, you learn from your experience. We should all learn from our experiences and say, you know what, I think I would do this differently. I'd alter this, and take what you learn from that experience moving forward.
Yeah, I've always been, I think this is one of the things that just getting to know you a little bit as we've talked to you on this show and a little bit off that we have in common is I'm a very, forward-thinking person. For me, when I saw the news, it really was two big bits of news. And I might have been one of the very few people who focused much less on the Jeff Bridich angle of this entire thing. And when I saw the words team president, Goody, just all the cards on the table, this is something I've been very big about for years. I thought Kelly McGregor made an instrumental impact on why this team was competitive for a little bit longer, I think, than people realize, from 2007 really through the end of 2010. And to not have that position filled has left a void and maybe even precipitated some of the issues between what went on with, in general, I'm just saying, Dick Monfort, Jeff Bridich, Nolan, the entire situation, that maybe, well, you can't go backwards. Like we said, you can't go backwards. You can only go forward. And that maybe now that there is somebody in this position and that the position exists, this can be a stabilizing factor. So I wanted to ask you about that, and also what you can tell us about Greg Feasel.
Yeah, I've known Greg, for a long time. And, Greg is he's been very successful on the business side. Greg is he's a straight shooter. And He is a, kind of he's got a good personality, but he's got a no nonsense approach. And it's funny. I think back to, Greg and Kelly, when they were together, they were known as the Bruise Brothers because, Kelly was an NFL tight end and was 6'7.5", and Kelly, that's why it was such a shock when he suddenly passed, kept himself in great shape. And he was, about 260 pounds, which, for a guy 6'7.5", who was an NFL player and big, strong dude, he was in great shape. And Greg's about 6'7" and, 285. He's a former, offensive lineman. So, these guys, they command attention when they walk in the room. It'll be interesting to see, how it works going forward. Greg's background has always been on the business side. He's obviously been involved in baseball for a long time. Now, whoever ends up being the general manager, do they have full autonomy within reason? Because you always have to answer to ultimately the owner, because if you want to spend their money, or if you want to, trade the guy that like a Nolan Arenado, that sort of thing, it has to be a collaborative thought process. But will that general manager be able to, hire his own people and put together, his staff or her staff? I shouldn't just say his, right? And
shout out to Kemming.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how much autonomy and how that, hierarchy works, will be interesting. I think the number one thing from a fan's perspective is they just want to see the club, as we all do. They want to see the club as successful as it can be, as frequently as possible, which, short of, listen, everybody's upset in New York because the Yankees are off to a poor start. It's hard to have the kind of run that we saw Atlanta have. It's hard, and they only won one championship over those 14 division titles, as we all know. It's hard to have the kind of success, that the Yankees have had on multiple occasions through the years. The Dodgers are having right now, though they've only won one, even though they've won 8 straight division titles. So what's realistic for a quote-unquote mid-market team? I don't know what it is. Is it going to the playoffs, 4 or 5 times out of 10 years? Would you like it to be every year? Of course you would. And so it probably falls somewhere in there, and let's see what it looks like, going forward. But I also believe that at the end of the day, a change was probably necessary. I think it had become so toxic, in the community and some of the things that have transpired, that it's probably good to get, some new voices in there, and have their opportunity to guide the franchise, back up the slope.
Yeah, even if you go back to when, Bridich first came on and, makes the Tulowitzki deal, it takes a couple years for his work that he's doing as the GM. Was already doing stuff behind the scenes. Took a while for that to translate. That's natural. That happens in that position until you can get everything going your way in your direction. So it stands to reason. Interim GM Greg Feasel, now team president. Like, it's going to take some time to evaluate that. It's not this immediate fix where, wow, the Rockies are going to be a contender now in 2022. It takes a little bit of time, and people just have to be patient with that.
Yes. I think that's, that nobody has patience typically in sports, because you want to have a parade every year. And, you understand that. But, listen, it seems like the descent was pretty quick, because it was 2018. And the three of us have talked about this on the show. And I know you guys have on your, when I'm not around as well. 2018, the Rockies finished in a dead heat with the now legendary Los Angeles Dodgers, right? I mean, we're now talking about the Dodgers in dynastic terms. And so that's just a couple, 3 years ago. This thing can turn around again pretty quickly also. And, one of the things we'll probably talk about, the nice win for the Rockies finally on the road last night. This is a year of opportunity. I've said this frequently on the broadcast. I've said it on my podcast. I've said it on your guys' podcast. And, who's going to emerge? Who's going to be part of the solution moving forward? Well, Ryan McMahon's making a pretty big statement right now. And I think that's the fun part of it. And so I guess I'm getting long-winded here, but that climb up the mountain, is there work to be done? Certainly. Does the farm system have to, improve? Yes. Do the Rockies collectively have to do a better job in Latin America? I think they do. And I think they have a guy in place who runs it who's really good. It's just, maybe there's additional resources that can be put forth for Rolando Fernandez down there, because I know Rolando's very well thought of in Latin America. Does there have to be, from an information standpoint, an analytics standpoint, do you have to beef up what has become a very whittled down, area of the organization? Certainly. They do, but this doesn't have to be, 8 years from now, the three of us are having the same conversation. I don't think it has to be that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tulowitzki gets traded July 2015, and you say, oh, they made the postseason in 2017, a year and a half later. It happens. That can absolutely happen, especially as you said, these young guys can come to fruition, and we're seeing a lot of bright spots right now.
I don't know if I pointed this out last week with Drew, or in the last couple of weeks with the three of us. I may have, and if I'm repeating myself, so what? I repeat myself all the time because we all talk too much. That's what we get paid to do.
True.
But think about the Houston Astros, how miserable they were, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever that 12 to 14, 11 to 13, I forget what it was. They lost 100 plus games 3 years in a row. They were not only bad, they were clearly the worst team in baseball by any measurement. They had the number one pick 3 straight years. Only once did they get it right. That's when they took Carlos Correa. The other two, Mark Appel never played in the big leagues. He was released by Philadelphia. He tried to make a comeback this year. Never pitched in the big leagues. He was a 1-1 in whatever year that was. And then the next year they took Brady Aiken, who never pitched for him. They couldn't sign him. They got a compensatory pick, the following year. But so they have the number one pick in the draft. 1-1, 3 straight years, and only one of those guys ever made the big leagues. And yet, after losing, 300 plus games in 3 years, a couple years later, year in and year out, they're winning 100 plus games and we're world champions.
It's baseball, right?
Yeah,
you just don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces on these teams. And the other thing that you guys were, I think, kind of walking up to the line there and making me think about too, is that whoever inherits this thing, and I do want to get some of your thoughts, so we don't want to get too far afield with that on that. And then we do want to get onto the baseball field at the end of the conversation. But is that whoever's taking over this job is inheriting a team that doesn't have any big, massive, bad contract. I don't care how you feel about Charlie Blackmon. That's not a bad contract. That guy, Charlie Blackman's
not that big.
Presence is worth the price alone. And that's the only one you can, even if you're being as analytically minded as possible, say that's a tough contract. Everything else, it's a team full of young guys you can either believe in or not and move on. There's going to be the freedom for whoever comes in here to kind of remold the team in their image, which is something that actually Jeff Bridich did when he first got here and shipped out Tulo and, some of these things. So I think that there's just this field of possibility in front of there's going to be money to spend. There's not much on the books over the next couple of years. We know that. So it's just like, it's going to be really fascinating to see whoever takes over. There's a lot of opportunity here for them to mold the team in whatever image they decide.
And I also think one of the really important aspects, and it's related to the COVID situation, is how quickly Colorado and Denver County opens up and says, hey, you can have, 100% capacity, because that allows the ownership group to, maximize their profits, maybe ahead of, some other teams and start to recoup what was lost a year ago. And then you become a little, maybe more comfortable spending some dollars because you realize there's some normalcy in terms of revenue stream that's returning. And that's an important element. Fans don't want to hear that because, naturally and understandably to a certain degree, fans just look like everybody who's involved, whether it be players or, owners, are very, very wealthy. And so the fact that they're going to run their business and not try to lose money, which is how we all would run our own businesses. They almost want it run sometimes at a different level because they just lump them in a different category. So I do think that's an important factor as well.
And with the All-Star game coming up, I mean, those are three more dates with the Futures game and Celebrity Softball on Sunday, Derby on Monday, and the game on Tuesday. Again, that's more opportunity for, like you said, the Rockies to kind of maybe turn some things around in that way financially, and it gets them going in the right direction.
Yeah. It should be noted, though, Patrick, that those events, when it comes to tickets and
it's run by MLB
concessions, that's MLB.
I didn't know about the concessions part. That's what I figured the Rockies could keep, but it's not even concessions either, huh?
As I understand it, that's all. In fact, as it was explained to me, the host team, it's great for the city, obviously, right? It's great for businesses. The team, if you will, and the organization is on display. But from a financial standpoint, it actually typically costs the team a little bit of money in terms of outlays here and there. But Major League Baseball holds on to, as I understand it, certainly tickets. I believe it's parking. I believe it's concessions as well.
That's interesting. It's almost like the Olympics, right? Where the hosts kind of lose the money, but the people who are there and they get that experience. So I mean, if all that's true, and it obviously makes sense, we know how MLB can operate that, then this is truly a gift for the city of Denver then.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Controversial as it may be.
Well, a gift for your wallet is getting over to our friends at Gabi Insurance. GABI stands for Get a Better Insurance. That's literally exactly what they do. It doesn't cost you a thing, no text messages, no emails. It costs you at most 6 or 7 minutes of your time. That is it. They saved me $480 on just my car insurance for the year. If you've got home, car insurance, a lot of other things, you can probably save over $1,000 like our guy Eric Weedham. That national average is $961 for these guys. Check them out at gabi.com/DNVR. Like I said, it'll only take you a couple of minutes and you'll be able to save a bunch of money on your insurance. I know I was able to. Cost you nothing. Do it today. It'll put a big old smile on your face. And if you want your smile to be the best that it can be, well, then head over to our friends at Green Mountain Dental. Green Mountain Dental, located just 15 minutes outside of downtown Denver. They'll hook you up with free Sonicare toothbrush when you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, and they'll treat you like family. They know that not a lot of people love going into the dentist. If you love going into the dentist, then you'll just love going to Green Mountain Dental anyway. If you're not so sure about it, they know how to handle it. They know how to talk to you about sports and treat you like family. They're all plugged in with the sports realm. They're huge Colorado Rockies fans. They're watching every single game too. They'll have thoughts on Ryan McMahon to share with you to put you at ease while you're getting your teeth done. So again, check them out at Green Mountain Dental Group, just 15 minutes outside of downtown Denver. And toast your Breck Brew or your Breck Seltzy to them, though maybe not immediately, because then they'll be like, it's probably what you got all over your teeth. We're going to clean that out there. But still, it's a good idea. All right, before we move totally away from the conversation, I did want to now, and obviously, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning and the human part of the conversation, I'm not going to ask you to weigh in on who you think of these, the interim candidates should get the job. But I was just wondering, because there's two names that have kind of been floated publicly a lot. Thomas Harding, I think, reported this as well. Just to tell the people a little bit about what you know of each of these people, particularly Bill Schmidt and Zach Rosenthal, what their roles have been inside the organization, and just kind of what the different expertises that they could bring to the table.
Well, Billy is, well thought of and has been for a number of years in the industry from a scouting standpoint. I mean, when you think about a lot of the players that folks have the jerseys of, the Nolan Arenados, the Ryan McMahons, currently the Trevor Storys. I pointed this out on my podcast as well. You even think about guys that had, really nice, smaller runs, but were really solid contributors to good teams like Ryan Spilborghs, like Corey Sullivan, who those guys were drafted 7th, 8th, 9th round. In the case of McMahon, 2nd round, Arenado, 2nd round. Trevor was a supplemental #1. So Billy historically has done a really good job with his guys. I mean, there's a lot of good scouts in the Rockies organization, and Danny Montgomery's been, one of his right-hand guys, Mike Erickson, guys that nobody knows about unless you're intimately involved in baseball. So Billy has done a terrific job, and Billy's been in that, spot for a long time. And that's been his calling, player evaluation. And, it's nobody bats 1,000. We understand that, but he is very, very good at what he does. Zach Rosenthal is an attorney who's been in baseball now for a while, a really affable guy. He's a sharp guy, and he's dealt with agents quite a bit, player contracts, and so one thing that I think when things turn sour, people paint too frequently. Not everybody, but paint with a broad brush, and they assume that everything having to do with an issue, that means that everybody who has to do with it is not good at their job and is terrible, and you just got to completely clean house. There's a lot of people that are very, very capable within that organization and have been, and that's why they've had success in the past. Now, we know it's taken a downward turn the last couple of years, but the two guys that you mentioned are very, very good and very well thought of in the industry for what they do. Billy's more on the, has obviously been on the scouting side, and Zach has been, with his background, he's dealt with agents and contractual side, and also when you're putting together trades and making sure, from a financial standpoint and service time. I mean, there's a lot of minutia that goes into that, and Zach has been living that day to day and hour to hour for a long time.
Yeah, you even go outside the organization, and there's been some candidates thrown around there, and some of them came from the Rockies organization themselves. So as you said, to your point, baseball is a big industry, and there's people that are ambitious, and the Rockies have a lot of those folks that can fit in well, and they have success in other organizations. They have success with the Rockies as well. Like you said, with Bill Schmidt, John Wheel is another guy. We got to talk to him, I think, before that Isotopes Rockies game, exhibition game. He's a fantastic guy too.
Yeah, Johnny Wiles is an outstanding. He's an assistant general manager as well, and I'm glad you brought Johnny's name up. Again, well thought of. Johnny's been on the amateur scouting side, on the professional scouting side. He's very, very adept at player evaluation. These are all attributes that a general manager, sometimes they come from different kinds of backgrounds. Some are more analytically driven. Some come from completely outside the baseball business, but they're numbers people, and some have a background in player evaluation, like a Johnny Weil. So yeah, those three guys off the top of my head are, again, well thought of, sharp, and have been very successful at what they do. Johnny Weil was instrumental in the German Marcus deal, the Corey Dickerson deal. I mean, he was on that. And sometimes it's smaller deals. The reason that Daniel Bard, a big reason, I don't want to make it the singular reason, one of the big reasons that Daniel Bard's a Rocky is the work John Weil did on it, and putting eyeballs on him when he was throwing for several teams, and said this still works. I think when that first came up, there were I was like, okay, that's an interesting one. This guy hasn't pitched in years, and you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle with a guy in his mid-30s who the last time we saw him unfortunately had the yips, and we know how that turned out, and a lot of that's John Weil.
I think we all had that thought. And then I remember being there too at spring training 1.0, and the very, very first time we went out there, I think he walked the first couple of guys and then gave up like a grand slam, couldn't finish the inning, 5-6 earned runs, 1 out. And you just went, well, that was cute. And apparently Daniel Bard had other thoughts.
Yeah, it's a great, it remains a great story. It remains, and even last night, an example of how far he's come, from a mental standpoint, you just trust him. You don't think about his past anymore. At least I don't when I'm calling a game. He gives up the long home run to Crawford. I mean, the Giants are littered with Rockies killers, right? Posey and Crawford and Belt, right? Yeah. He gives that up, and then it looks like he's out of the inning, and he kind of fumbles that comebacker, and you go, oh, man, this thing could really turn south. He gets the next guy, ground ball to second, weak ground ball, get out of the inning, and he ultimately ends up winning the game.
Yeah, when you're exactly right. Again, when that comebacker, when he didn't handle, I thought, oh no, this is going to go bad. And that it didn't, you're right. Like that's big stuff. That's huge stuff. And he's still throwing like 98 on the edges. He's missing his spots here and there, but I've got all the faith in the world that Bard is he'll be just fine.
I predicted on my podcast at the start of the year, I said the Rockies are going to have 2 All-Stars. Now I got to remember what I said. Well, I said Trevor Story is going to be an All-Star. That's not exactly going out on a limb that's not well supported. I said Daniel Bard will be an All-Star, and I had an honorable mention for CJ Cron because I thought CJ, got caught up in what he did in March, and I thought CJ, 1-year deal, great place to hit, as we all know, could really put up large numbers because he's always, when he stayed healthy, he's always put up some prolific, home run numbers, and he's going to hit in the middle of the order, and he's going to be afforded the opportunity to play a lot. And he's really come on lately. And I'm thrilled. Again, we talked about Ryan a little bit earlier. Ryan McMahon has gotten off to an all-star level start, but that's how much I thought of Daniel Bard and what we saw last year. And it still may happen. I mean, he's been okay so far, but it still may happen for him.
You might have mentioned on this podcast too as well.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, that does sound familiar. And you're right. Yeah, with closers like when they have the 27th man, the final ballot. I could see him getting on if he doesn't make the first round. It's going to be exciting with the All-Star game at Coors Field and see which one of these Rockies. But yeah, Ryan McMahon right now he's got to be the locked in favorite and depending on the ballot, right? Because I think the Rockies choose what position. Is he a second baseman? Is he a third baseman? Does he start over Nolan Arenado in the All-Star game? If he keeps hitting home runs, why not? How about that story?
Boy, you could sit on that one all day. You want to stir it up.
How about that story?
Let's go.
He actually right now, again, I mean, Nolan's a great player. This is not Nolan is a phenomenal player. He's a Hall of Fame player, and we all wish he was still wearing purple. But, here we embark, and he's had a good start with St. Louis. But Ryan's had such a great start. He has more. He has a higher OPS, and he has his DRS, defensive run saves, is tops in the league, and he's got 6 defensive run saves, 3 at each spot, 3 at third and 3 at second. So good for Rymack.
Yeah, he's playing good baseball. It was really great to see him again after, oddly enough, a lot of the other bats kind of broke out on the homestand of such a great homestand for Ryan Maltapia, CJ Cron. We talked about these other guys, and McMahon went a little quiet, kind of, if you can call taking Aaron Nola deep, going quiet. You know what I mean? But for the week, I think he hit like 220 or something like that. And then for him to go back out there on the road, responding after they had a really rough offensive night because DeSclafani was just incredible. I think did I say it right? Did I do it, Patrick?
You did it right.
Nailed it first time.
You didn't think about
a running start. That's exactly right. What
was his name again?
Nope.
Oh, good. No, that's the right call.
1,000 a day, buddy.
It's got to be natural when you say a name like that.
But to see an extras there, McMahon, after again all the stuff we just talked about earlier, go up late night through the thick air. If they get to talk about the thin air, we get to talk about the thick air, and just deliver an absolute monster jam.
You heard me say it last night, Drew. That ball would have been out even before they moved the fences in. Mm-hmm. And I've been privileged enough to spend a lot of nights in San Francisco in that ballpark, and it's gorgeous. You're sitting out there on the bay, and the fans are into it, and it's one of my favorite places to call a ball game and watch a ball game. But I'm telling you what, to hit it out where he hit it out, you have to be one strong son of a gun to do that. and especially late in the evening with the marine air, he's got effortless power. And one of the things that impresses me the most about him is how focused he is at bat to at bat. Monday became a bleep show, right? By the way, on my podcast, I'd actually say what I'm just saying, but I don't want to offend anybody on your podcast, so I say a bleep show until you guys give me, affirmation.
You've got full reign to say what you
okay.
Yeah.
But anyhow, they're down, 9-0 after 2. It's 12-0 game. Ryan McMahon never gave away an at bat. I mean, you saw kind of a steely focus at bat to at bat, and he's maturing. He's maturing from an understanding of who he is and the skill set and the shortening of the swing, and he's also maturing in how he goes about his business, which is natural for any player. And this is a really talented kid, and I don't want to anoint him as a top this or top that. Let's just see how it plays out. But it's been one of the fun things that has evolved so far in the 2021 season.
And I love that he did it with one out too, because you get the runner on second base, and we've seen the Rockies be somewhat successful at doing the small ball thing, and they need to do that a lot this season, and they've been successful with it. And Story makes the first out, and so already you go, well, now somebody has to come through with something, and McMahon did. He was down 0-1, and yet still comes through in that spot. That's huge for him.
It was huge because, first of all, if you don't score, they're going to lose. I mean, if you don't score, the odds are you're going to lose. And especially given the Rockies' history against San Francisco, in San Francisco, and the start to the season on the road, they're going to lose. If they score just one, it's pretty dicey. So for the fact that he drives the ball out of the ballpark and then it's followed up by C.J. Cron, and what should be lost in this? I'm going to talk about this on the air tonight. You're going to say, hey, you heard it first on with Patrick and Drew on DNVR, but Carlos Estevez now 3 straight. I mean, because he'd be the first to say I was terrible in March, and he had a terrible start to the season. And his last 3 have been pretty solid. And that's a dicey situation when you don't have the confidence level at its peak, and now you're in San Francisco and you're trying to protect a lead. And there's already a runner at second by rule.
A runner, yeah.
And now a run comes in, and now the tying runs at the plate a couple of times with guys that can do damage, and you get out of it. That was really important for Carlos Estevez last night, and for the Rockies overall, because Buddy needs you need all hands on deck, right? But we know the bullpen needs some assistance.
Yeah, that run that scored last night unearned. And so since April 11th, he's cut his ERA in half. So he's down to 4.15. And again, with it being an unearned run, that's now 4 scoreless outings for him. So that's been a huge piece. And there's been this bullpen, I think, was the secondary strength. I think Drew and I, we kind of both agreed on that. Like, obviously, it's all about the starting pitching. But the bullpen had that potential to be sneaky good because there were so many live arms, and they're not all going to figure it out. We don't necessarily even know which ones are going to figure it out, but there's enough of them that, and again, even if they go hot and cold, that you can mix and match enough. And right now, Estevez is one of those hot hands. Robert Stevenson as well. He's been very good the last week plus.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him also, because that's been a nice story. The Rockies made a trade. Jeff was still in charge when that trade was made. I think Jeff Hoffman, one of those situations he desperately needed, a new scenery, as has been said many, many times through the years in sports. And the same was said about Robert Stevenson. The Rockies threw in their 4th, pick in the draft. If he was a local kid, Williams out of Douglas County, and get back a guy that was impressive in spring training. We'll see where it goes with Jamison Hanna. He's going to start the year in Albuquerque. But specifically to the point you made about Robert Stevenson, big arm, former first-round pick, and he's now being put in higher leverage situations. And the walk, which was a big concern and an issue at times in his career, that has not reared its head. He's throwing the fastball for strikes. The slider's always been a high quality pitch for him. So now you have a few guys coming out of that pen that look the part in 2021. And what I mean by that is we're in a high velocity age. We all know that. And, you can have a couple of guys that are more finesse guys. Tyler Rogers, the Chatfield product is a unique guy because he throws from, basically the knuckles are dragging on the dirt, right?
Right.
He's the only one. He's the only submariner.
He's the only one, and
right
he's uniquely successful doing that. He can pitch every day. He's already had 13 or 14 appearances. He's on pace to have over 100, which would be crazy. But the point is that you need some guys that can miss bats, that are true power arms. And Stevenson is that. Carlos Estevez was up to 98 again last night. We hadn't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by they look the part.
Yeah, I was very impressed with what Estevez was bringing last night. So I was like, hey,
he looks like to be in great shape too.
Yeah,
he looked fantastic coming out in spring training.
Yeah.
The moment wasn't too big for him last night, and there was a couple extra ticks on the fastball. I mean, he was consistently 97, 98, and I hadn't seen that. I certainly didn't see it in March, which is understandable, but I didn't even see it in his first outings this April. But it was like, all right, give me the rock, man. I'm shutting this thing down. We're going to shake hands.
Yeah, very impressive stuff. So, well, I'll tell you one thing. Going back to what we were talking about, been making a little money on the DraftKings, betting on those Ryan McMahon home runs. I'll give you the comp in a minute for the reason why it's great money to bet on home runs because you always get long odds. And, you're usually going to miss, but the one that hits, especially when a guy is hot, flips you over to the plus side. It's a fantastic bet, in my opinion. You can always be betting on overs, unders, on strikeouts, winning the ball game, not in every sport, just about, including some sports you've maybe not even heard of. In fact, DraftKings Sportsbook is so awesome and fantastic. They'll even let you bet on drafts, including the NFL draft tonight. What kind of players are going to be taken? You can follow along with the draft while you're watching it, bet on the next player to be taken for certain positions, stuff like that. It really does make the sports watching experience just an extra game within a game in and of itself. It's a lot of fun. And right now is really the best time to sign up because if you do and you use promo code DNVR, you can turn $1 into $100 in free bets. That's right. DraftKings Sportsbook is letting you turn $1 into $100 in free bets just if a quarterback is selected first overall Thursday night. That's tonight. Draft taking place. Well, tomorrow night. I said tonight, I think earlier, but I meant tomorrow night. I can't remember exactly when this. It depends on when you're listening to this, whenever the podcast goes up. But if you're watching this live, you know when the NFL draft is. It's on Thursday night. If a quarterback is taken first and you use promo code DNVR, you'll turn $1 into $100 in free bets only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or over. Colorado only. New customers only. Winnings paid out in free bets. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And to have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Well, I do like Story to possibly hit a homer tonight. That's plus 450. But I think the easy lock for tonight, Herman Marquez, 5.5 strikeouts. That's an easy over. Now
over on that.
The Giants can be touch and go with putting the ball in play against him, but come on, just look at what he's been doing his last few starts.
He's locked in the last couple of games. That last outing, he came out and struck out 8. Right, he's locating the fastball for his first several outings. He was getting by on breaking stuff because his fastball is still a great fastball. He just didn't have the location on it that our man usually does. And then his last outing, there it was. I know they still tagged him for a couple of runs, but easy.
I like the over on the 5.5.
Oh yeah. Since that opening day start. He had 5 against Arizona, then 7 against these Giants. In San Francisco, 6 and then 8. So DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week. Take the over on Herman Marquez on 5.5 strikeouts. You'll have the bottom of the 4th inning, and you'll be feeling good the rest of the game.
Yeah, I like that.
Is DeGrom I think DeGrom's going today. What's his under over? 15?
17.5. I don't know.
Can you imagine?
Ooh, that is a good one.
That line? That's
10, oh no, not 10. Yes, 10.5.
It's 10.5.
Good Lord.
Well, he's only got 50 punch outs and 3 walks so far.
That is amazing.
Seaver-esque.
I did want to see what you thought of this comp, Goody, just because as you were talking about it earlier, it made me think of it. I said it on the podcast before, but Ryan McMahon, somebody, I watched him a lot throughout the minors, and he had a tendency for the bat to get really hot, sometimes get really cold, but you talk about the easy power, and it reminded me a lot of what we would see out of Carlos Gonzalez, where we would know there'd be those times he could get a little strikeout prone, get a little bit into a slump, but once he got hot, he could really put on a show. And I felt like, we hadn't seen that out of Ryan McMahon at the big leagues yet. We had seen, if you recall, I'm sure you remember this, right before he got called up to the big leagues the first time, he was hitting like 480 in AAA. He was just absolutely destroying things. And, so I was wondering what you thought of that. Like, obviously, we got a long way to go before he's Carlos Gonzalez. But when you see that type of swing, the easy power, like you said, in the marine layer, the ability to get hot and lock in on at bats, reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, Cargo was a great athlete. Ryan McMahon's a really good athlete. Cargo in his prime probably ran, a little bit better than Ryan. But Ryan underway runs fine. Ryan, I look at athleticism a little differently than some others. I think people always look at athleticism and say run fast, jump high, and you're a good athlete. Well, to me, a good athlete is somebody that can, shoot hoops, pick up a golf club, throw a football, swing a baseball bat, swing a golf club, really uniquely coordinated hand-eye wise. And that's Ryan McMahon. I mean, if you were looking just at pure athleticism in that terms, Ryan's is a better athlete than Nolan. And Nolan's a Hall of Fame player. It's not taking a shot at Nolan, but just in terms of being a better athlete overall, he's a better athlete. He's probably going to move better. Effortless powers, as you were talking about. Let's see how it evolves. But it's fun to watch him, kind of really take another step right in front of him. Like he was chopped liver a couple of years ago. His last full season, he hit 24 home runs and drove in 83. He hit 250, but there's more in there. He did that with still the long swing, kind of with the Nike swoosh, and was tardy at times getting his barrel out front. Not seeing that as much.
And what you can't deny, as far as comparisons go, the etymology of their nicknames. Carlos Gonzalez, Car, Go. Ryan McMahon, Rye, Mac. So, Drew, I think it was perfect.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, I appreciate you picking.
Creasman, you're getting sandbagged here a little bit. I think you nailed it.
I appreciate that. Will with the Brad Hopp comp, sure, why not? I mean, it's hard to comp anybody. Brad Hopp was a unique player. His skill, like his batting stance was unusual, even the way he wound up to throw. But certainly from a results standpoint, that's something that I think McMahon can absolutely be shooting for. And a couple of all-star appearances in there, at least the one. Do you have two?
I think Brad had one. And he could have, would have, should have been. Had the ball not been caught over the wall, he might have been the MVP of that All-Star game. I can't remember who hit it, who hit it. I know he hit it. I can't remember who robbed him over the wall. Do you remember that, Don?
I'm certain Will knows. He'll tell us in the comments. I'm certain of it. Will know.
Listen, Brad had a terrific career. Obviously, they played different positions. I think Ryan can impact the game a little bit more because he's on the dirt. At second and third on a given night. Today he's at second. So let's see where it goes. I mean, I hate putting a ceiling on somebody. It's like Garrett Hampson. I'm a big Garrett Hampson guy, and he's, we keep seeing moments, and then we see, moments put together, and stretches where you go, hey, he's a really good player. And cut down on the chase rate. Carl Crawford went over the wall. Thanks, Will. So, and that's kind of lost last night. We've had a little bit of a discussion about the Rockies winning that first road game and Carlos Estevez and Ryan McMahon's 2-run home run. But, for a moment, it looked like the guy that was going to be, get beer poured on his head after the game was Garrett Hampson, and hitting that ball to dead center field. And, we're watching on monitors. We're not there. And you're like, whoa, that thing went out.
Yeah.
That was a major game changer. You're right. McMahon's going to get the credit, and rightfully so. But Hampson doesn't come in that game. We don't have everything that that came after that. And I think I even saw somewhere that wasn't really widely reported was that the Rockies hit 3 home runs from the 9th inning on, and that was the first time that had ever happened, I think, in a victory, something like that. So
I haven't seen that note yet, but I trust you, and I guarantee it's the first time it happened in San Francisco, right?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
people were throwing a bunch of Garrett Hampson nicknames at us last night, which is hilarious because he actually has a ton of them. The hamster, Patrick calls him the Harrier.
Did you see the quote he had? He's
both cheeks.
You got both cheeks into it.
Both cheeks. We gotta
build your swing from the ground up, man.
That's such a great quote.
Yeah. If he keeps hitting home runs and he keeps using both cheeks, he's gonna be the great Hamp Bino. We got that one in play, maybe.
Go ahead. I love it. Well, somebody sent. What was the one somebody sent just today?
He's from Reno.
Oh, Sir Hamp-a-Lot. I liked Sir Hamp-a-Lot. Okay. That made me happy.
he's from Reno, and we know a funny cop show there. It was not Reno 911. Well, he wears number 1, so he's Reno 111.
Another guy who was a really good athlete, by the way. Really good.
Did he play football in high school?
I don't know if he played football, but he was a really good high school basketball player.
I could see him being a point guard for sure.
He was a point guard, and he was really good.
Yeah. It's like you said. Look, last night was a really fun ball game. Obviously, the night before, that's when you're going to want to just wash out and shower off and forget about. But this is one of those things that we've often talked about with this team. It's to see them come back after getting beat, frankly, about as completely as you can. You only produced 3 hits, complete game shutout from the other team's pitcher. They also scored 12 runs, and you were basically down from the get-go, right? Never in that game. How does a team that's, not expected to do much respond to that? By winning in extras with 3 late home runs against a team that has haunted their nightmares their whole existence. That was something else to behold.
It really could have turned sour. When Crawford hit that ball into McCovey Cove, you're like, this ain't happening.
Here we go.
I mean, the most ardent Rockies fan up late with work the next morning's like, I can't believe it. They ain't winning this one either. I mean, it's just how it felt, right? Oh. And so for those guys, to be resilient and to hang in there and get a couple big swings of the bat again in the 10th inning, and again for Carlos Estevez to put his foot down, it was good stuff. We know momentum is next day's starting pitcher, as the cliche goes in baseball, and the good news is, Germán is on the mound, and you have a chance to win a series. And
3rd in a row.
Yeah. It would be their 3rd in a row. So you take it. I know it's a sports cliche, but literally you take it one day at a time. And you see what happens, but hopefully we can start seeing a little bit more offense. You have to. We've said this for years. You got to swing the bats better on the road. There's usually an acclimation period, so now it'll be 72 hours since they left altitude, and let's see if they can get after Alex Wood a little bit.
You mentioned all those people who stayed up late to watch the game. They were saved by the extra inning rule. They were saved by. This could have been another 17-inning game like we saw 2 years ago, right? That was a Friday night. I mean, you were there. Was it 17 innings?
No, listen, I was there. It was 18.
18. I mean, shortchange it.
And we walked into the hotel lobby at 3-something in the morning.
That was epic. Bad. Those days are over.
Yeah.
Those days are over. Most likely.
I can't deny. I did begin by saying it was a very entertaining ball game, so I can't take it back now.
I remember the 22-inning affair at Petco Park many years ago.
I lost Frazier.
I lost Frazier for 2 innings. He was trying to find food. He went searching for like pizza. He comes back like 2 innings later with half a slice. I think there was like 6 bites taken out of it. I said, I ain't eating that thing. Where'd you get that? He goes, there's no food in the entire ballpark.
Is there an inning when you get to extras that you think, all right, this game could go 24, 25. I mean, you have no way of knowing, but do you have to start preparing like he did where he's like, all right, I need some sustenance because they're playing another 9-inning ball game. Like, do you start thinking like that, or is it literally just 3 outs at a time?
I think it just starts happening. And then, when you get beyond 13 or 14, you're like, okay, now. Somebody's going to have to start being a multiple inning guy. And, next thing you know is relief pitchers are hitting, and it becomes entertaining from, the crazy baseball fan standpoint. Would you want to see, those on a regular basis? Probably not. But we saw, listen, Buddy, you guys know Buddy. Buddy is adamant. He does not like throwing a position player. And even Buddy had to throw his hands up in the air the other day. And now he's done it 4 times in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And the only effective guy the other night was Josh Fuentes, right?
I was going to say, Josh looked good, man.
He threw
the edges with his, I'm going to say changeup. Yeah.
Yeah. Throwing that 76-mile-an-hour gravity sinker.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's gravity sinker.
He's the only guy who got on the mound for the Rockies on Monday night and didn't give up a run. Yeah. And he was efficient. 9 pitches.
In and out.
Shohei Ohtani, eat your heart out. Because Rockies got their guy now too. Love it.
Right. One last thing I wanted to ask you about before we get out of this, because Patrick has been banging the drum on this, and then I just jinxed the hell out of Raimel Tapia by just banging the drum. Like, he hasn't struck out in a week. He never strikes out. Look how low his strikeout percentage is. Struck out twice yesterday. He's getting a rest today. Fair enough. All right. I get it. But Jonathan Daza is also somebody I keep forgetting to bring up. I think he's like around 17%. The guys that are putting the ball in play are finding their success, and I think showing an interesting identity. You were talking about getting the offense. So, I just want to get your take on them doing that and trying to find more ways to just keep getting the bat on the ball and living in those successes and, running and gunning and playing that kind of fun brand of baseball.
Well, I think it's huge, especially for the 2 guys you mentioned. Tapia has really unusual hand-eye coordination. He's not going to hit. He's strong and he can hit the ball out of the ballpark. We've seen him do it 3 times so far in the early going this year. A couple of years ago, it was 9 times. But he has to be the kind of player that gets on base and uses the whole field. And if he runs into one, great. Maybe he hits 9 to 12 home runs a year. But he can't be making left turns and be a 30% strikeout guy. That's not going to work. Daza, the same thing. We saw him have his first career home run on the last homestand. He's not a guy that's going to go hit 30 home runs. Know who you are. Know how you can, within the confines of who you are, help your club win. Because when you get outside of that box, chances are you're not going to be a big leaguer any longer if you're striking out at a 32% rate if you're a Tapia or you're a Daza. And it's not just those 2 guys. There's a lot of guys.
So you basically got to hit 40 home runs a year to strike.
Right. I mean, you don't want to see anybody strike out a third of the time. It's, one of the issues with Sam Hilliard, as we all know right now. You don't want, CJ Crone, who's, done it before, 30 homers in a season, 25 in another season. Even CJ, you can put up with it if it's 25, 26%, because the upside is that he's going to trot around the bases quite a bit. But if you're a 8 to 12 home run guy, Garrett Hampson, he's got to clean that up, and he's done a better job so far this year. The ball has to be in play more, and not just individually, but if it's in play more collectively, the Rockies are going to have a better chance to have the offense that's going to give them an opportunity to win more frequently, especially on the days where, Trevor doesn't hit a 3-run homer or Blackman or Crone, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Tapia is at 11.2%. And other than Alan Trejo and his 11 plate appearances, he leads the team. So that's fantastic. And Daza's right next to him at 12.8% a strikeout rate. And those guys are drawing walks too. So we just see it. We talked earlier in the episode about the runner on second base, putting the ball in play, making some things happen, advancing the runner. Tapia has been doing that. He's been driving in runs, just hitting a ground ball second base and first base. So his game's coming together entirely. And Daza has allowed the offense to blossom a little bit, because then Hampson can move to second base. McMahon's over at third. So again, everyone being able to be a super utility player helps out and puts the best bats in the lineup.
Yeah, two footnotes to your thoughts there, Patrick. One, Daza made a fabulous catch in left field last night.
That was tremendous.
And I'm not saying Rymel wouldn't have made the play. You don't know, but
I'll
Daza
say it. That's my guy.
That's a great play.
Yeah.
And then the thing that's easy to forget, and we'll see how it plays out. You hope that you see, when I mention this guy's name, what we saw the first couple of weeks of spring training. At some point, Brendan Rodgers is going to be back, and the Rockies need Brendan Rodgers to be a really good player, and that may be unfair, but he's now had a couple cups of coffee, and he's ready to try to run with his opportunity, and his opportunity this time has been derailed by a hamstring, but at some point he's going to be back. And so then there's less opportunities or less places. Hampson can play both. Daza's an outfielder. They're ultimately good problems to have if you're Buddy Black. But keep that kind of in your hip pocket. That hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so, Brendan Rodgers will be back.
Rodgers and Freeland are watching these Rockies games, saying, "Man, I want to get in on that fun." Because Rockies are definitely having fun, and you heard it between the comments about, hey, Garrett got both cheeks into it, and McMahon talking about the post-game celebration, and Charlie getting up there like the dad, saying, hey, here's what everyone did. They had fun. They got their necklaces that they're wearing for the MVP of the game. They're having fun, and it's going to be even more fun when Rodgers and Freeland can start to join the fray. It's going to be good.
And we're going to have a lot of fun, man. Who was on the podcast this week? I was going to say.
Well, Ryan McMahon was on this past week, and we had to. We're going to deviate. We talk a lot of baseball this week with obviously with Jeff resigning, and and some of the other things that took place. We talked baseball initially, and then I transitioned. I'm a big hockey guy. I want to cover all the other teams. So my buddy Mark Mosier, voice on television for the Avalanche, will be on this week, and the Avs gearing up for Stanley Cup run. So we'll talk about the Avs quite a bit as well.
Awesome. I know we got a lot of crossover fans here because a lot of our Avalanche community has embraced me, and I know there's a lot of people that do baseball and hockey here, so you're not going to want to miss that. Make sure you're subscribed to the Drew Goodman podcast for that. You're checking out these games as late as they are local time. As it turns out, they've been remarkably fun, especially if last night was any indication, as the team finishes off the set with the San Francisco Giants, then heads off to face the Arizona Diamondbacks. We really appreciate you all for hanging with us. Make sure that you're subscribing to the DNVR.com so that you don't miss out on any of that written content. I got a thing up today about some of the avenues I see for improvement for whoever happens to take over as general manager of the team, either in the interim or in the long term, really. And we appreciate everyone getting a hold of us on social media. It's a great place to hang out with us. At Patrick Lyons, at Drew Creasman, at Drew Goodman 42. Say hello. Come be friendly with us. Talk about the Colorado Rockies. We want to, continue to foster a fun community. It's been a whole lot of fun hanging out with all of you. And, I forgot to mention the free shirt and the free holistic stick, didn't I? Yeah, I totally did. So when you sign up for the DNVR.com for the annual, you get that free t-shirt, but we've also still got a few left. I think there's only a few left. So if you've been curious about that holistic stick, the CBD wellness situation, check out holisticwellness.com, HOLISTIK wellness.com. You'll get a free one if you sign up for the annual, and you can also use the promo code DNVR30 to get 30% off. Thank you all for continuing.
Yeah. We have too many benefits, so don't be too hard on yourself. We have too many benefits that we give away to our subscribers that it's really hard to remember each and every one of them.
Totally forget about some of this stuff sometimes. I get asked every once in a while too, what is my favorite shirt that we do if you're going to get the free annual. Patrick likes that one. I like the one with all the different team logos on it. That just synergy of the teams in town. I love it. Again, go listen to the Drew Goodman podcast because you'll get baseball and hockey. That's what we're talking about.
Little football also this week. Little.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah, well, and obviously, you got to drop us with the football knowledge whenever you get a chance.
You got it. Have a good one, boys.
All right, we appreciate it. Everybody be absolutely awesome out there. We'll continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons, Drew Creasman, and Drew Goodman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.